Hi everyone, happy Wednesday. It's Alysia and I'm very excited to be with you today for our weekly global online fireside chat. Today I'm broadcasting to you live from London with an exquisite view overlooking the gorgeous city of London. The summer weather has been absolutely amazing with everyone spending copious quantities of time out in this fresh summer air. We have lots of exciting updates to share with you both from London and from around the world. Our global fireside chat community aims to change the world and we are well on our way to doing so, all because of you. As always, today we have an amazing session planned for you. We have a panel of brilliant VIP guests joining us from across the globe, logging in to help you understand the investment differences between emerging market and US-based startups. Living in these incredibly evolutionary times, boundaries are dissolving and investment opportunities are becoming wider and wider, giving the available access to the massive global community of startups seeking investment. During the session today, our experts will help add clarity to the differences between emerging market and US-based startups. Now I've got you all excited. Let me go ahead and introduce you to our awesomely inspiring VIP guests before asking them to properly introduce themselves to you. Welcome to Kenya-based Sumaya Hassan, who's a lawyer, oil and gas practitioner and entrepreneur. New York, USA-based. I'm sorry, everybody, we seem to be having bad connectivity issues. Please bear with us. New York, USA-based Matthew Babbage is an entrepreneur, innovator, and startup consultant. Unfortunately, he can't join us today, but he will be joining us again soon. Bangalore, India-based Hebron Mulroy is a market penetration expert, coach, author, and influencer. Johannesburg, South Africa-based Michelle Kalalo is a global banker, strategist, and finance expert. Florida, USA-based Mark Schoenberger is an entrepreneur and sales expert. And last but definitely not least, Johannesburg, South Africa-based Amina Matupi is an entrepreneur, keynote speaker, business mentor, and recognized technology expert. Now, I know you want to meet them, so here goes. Let's start with Michelle. Michelle, please say hi to everyone.
Hi, everyone. I'm very honored to be in this panel. I hope that the connection is well and that we're going to have fun. Briefly, yes, in terms of my background, I'm a banker. I've worked in different countries and now I'm focusing on real project in Africa. And I'm looking forward to, to discuss the topics today and exchange with all panelists and with all you guys. Thank you.
Welcome, Michelle. We seem to be having difficulty today from a technology perspective. Everybody, please just bear with us. Now, Mark, please say hi all the way from the US.
Hi, my name is Mark Schoenberger. I'd like to thank Alysia and the Fireside Chat community for listening today. I am the CEO of Checkmate Healthcare. We are in the process of raising funds in the United States. And we're here to basically give some advice on how it works in our emerging, in this country versus emerging countries for everything from angel funding, friends and family funding, private equity, venture capital, and utilizing LinkedIn, social networking to raise capital around the world. So look forward to talking with everybody and being part of the panel. Thank you.
Very excited that you're joining us today, Mark. Thank you so much. Sumaya, please say hi to everyone from Kenya.
Hello, everyone from Kenya. Sumaya.
We seem to have lost Sumaya. Darren will get her back. I'm sorry. Please bear with us, everyone. Hebron, please say hi from India.
Hello to everyone. I'm Hebron Milroy. I come with over 12 years of experience in sales and marketing. My areas of work has been predominantly in the field of embedded software and chip design. So I worked on various technologies such as wireless from 2G, 3G to LTE Advanced and WiMAX, worked on storage technologies, automotive electronics, and different solutions. I'm also an author of a business book, a business coach, and an aspiring entrepreneur. Over the period of years, I've interacted with various customers, startups, entrepreneurs, and investors. During our show, I shall share my thoughts on the exponential growth of technology in emerging markets and countries like India, and how startup and global companies are working together successfully, bringing the advanced technologies to the whole world.
Thank you, Hebron. Very excited that you're joining us. Amina from South Africa, please say hi to everyone.
Hello, everyone. Amina here. Same Amina, just on the other side, all the way from South Africa. I'm involved in change management. We work hand in hand with IT companies, implementing systems. For us, we do the communication and the planning of projects. Also, we do project management in that regard. I'm very excited to be on this show. Thank you.
We are very excited to have Amina joining us as one of our super champions from South Africa. Sumaya, please say hi to everyone.
Hi, everyone from Kenya. I'm very happy to be here with all of you. My background as a lawyer, running an oil and gas company, putting up oil and gas infrastructure and providing advisory within the oil and gas sector, and currently building an e-learning platform to help leverage the opportunities that are there across the African continent.
Welcome to Maya, and everybody, you can see you want to learn from the best, and they are here to learn from today. So we're going to have a brilliant show. I know that you've got 1,000 questions you want to ask them. I'm going to quickly just jump into some shout outs, and then we're going to throw all the questions at them. So on the screen are contact details for our panelists. Feel free to reach out to them. Don't forget to keep sending your questions through to inspire me at onlinefiresidechat.com, and we'll do our very best to have them included in our show. We have many of you joining us today. We have community champions managing the chat room. So if you have a question for one of our VIP guests, feel free to post your question and we'll do our best to get it answered. Just a reminder, we have community champions and ever-growing meetup groups around the world in 55 countries and over 80 cities, including in North and South America, the UK, Europe, Africa, the Middle East, India, Asia, and Australia. And we'll be here the whole night if I said them all to you. So I'm going to skip that part. If you'd like to meet your local chapters or you'd like to start your own, feel free to reach out to us via email or put you in contact with our local community champion. On that note, thank you to all our volunteer champions from around the globe. You know this, but I have to keep saying this because you're so special to us. You're the heart and soul of our community, and we wouldn't be here today without you. Over the next few months, with all your help, we'll be sharing with and inspiring entrepreneurs in more than 100 countries. Together, we know we can make this happen. Thanks again to our VIP guests today for sharing your knowledge and wisdom so freely with all of us. We're very excited that you're joining us. Thanks to our growing family of supporters and collaborators around the developing world for once again hosting sessions for hundreds of entrepreneurs who don't have access to necessary bandwidth or understanding of the English language to join our sessions on their own. Thank you to all the presidents, prime ministers, ambassadors, CEOs, government ministries, UN offices, US embassy corners, British council offices, university campuses, schools, business incubators, chamber of commerces, and community centers, community radio stations, and media for all your ongoing weekly hosting support and for raising awareness in your regions and communities. Thank you to everyone from our UN Women team for all your support. Once again, thanks to all our champions' efforts who's streaming across new live platforms today. If you have entrepreneurs in your community that you believe can benefit from our Fireside Chat community, make sure to connect with us so that we can keep sharing and inspiring. Now, you want to learn from the best? They are here, so let's jump right in. Today's topic is Global Online Fireside Chat, a debate. The emerging markets versus US startups ecosystems. What must you know from an investor perspective? So to make our VIPs comfortable, we're going to pose a question to you. It goes to our whole panel. We would love to hear your insights, and let's jump on in and start learning. Hebron, you are our first VIP guest to answer a question today. So here goes. Make yourself nice and comfortable, Hebron. Here we go. So the question goes as follows. Hebron, what do you think makes a startup from the emerging markets different to a startup from the US?
Alysia, what I see is that the startups in emerging markets and countries have a whole lot of advantage over here. To start with, the cost of setting up a startup is very low in countries like India. And of course, what happens is you have an exponential growth over here in technology right now. So you have every way and every advantage to set up an amazing startup in emerging countries, because you have a huge talent pool, extremely highly skilled engineers over here. Cost of development of any product or technology is completely very low. So what investors are looking for is how fast the return of investment can come in. And that is very, very easy and faster because you have higher margin rates in emerging markets. So the investor very happy because you get that very fast. And second thing, I would say the quality of work, which has been phenomenal over here because you have amazing set of engineers and skill set. So comparatively to US markets and in emerging markets, I would say there is a lot of advantage in terms of costing, in terms of delivery, in terms of quality compared to the US market. I'm not saying in US market you don't get these, but it is going to be a little more expensive and the return of revenue or the investment is going to take a little longer.
Thank you, Hebron. And Mark, I'm sure you've got some insights to share from the US in terms of what Hebron was saying. Would you like to go ahead?
Sure. Thanks, Alysia. So I agree with what Hebron is actually saying. I think that the cost of entering the market in emerging markets, the technology advantages, the revenue side, and being able to return investment quicker in developing markets is clearly an advantage for investing in companies in emerging markets. However, the United States also happens to be, the major market where everything is sold. So establishing those relationships with U.S. companies, taking technology from U.S. companies and enhancing it abroad in the emerging markets, taking the platforms, for instance, our company has basically a plug-and-play model where we can take our lab-based testing services for STDs and we can actually plug-and-play laboratories from around the world into the app platform and be able to expand our platform worldwide. So although we're developing in the United States where our cost of technology development is very high, we look at the emerging markets and we look at international markets as very easy expansion for us once we have the platform developed and be able to raise additional capital, have additional partners around the world, bring in additional laboratories into our platform and expand worldwide. So I think the United States is a great initial market for getting the technology out there and being able to prove that return on investment. But I agree with Hebron that developing the technology initially in the emerging market world is much more cost effective, and they do have a tremendous resource pool of educated professionals. So it's a great place to partner with. So actually our software, even though we're creating it in the United States, all the programming is done in India.
Thank you, Mark. Some fantastic insights. I know we've got a quick point that Hebron wants to add, and then Sumaya's got some thoughts she wants to add around this question. So Hebron, please hit it.
I think Mark is right, and I think what we are looking is collaborating two worlds, both US and the emerging markets, and together it's a positive outlook where we get the best of everything, and end of the day, all the products and technologies are used globally by all. So I think it's for the best where we actually collaborate and do it together. I think that would be it.
And that is why we are here today. Collaboration is key. Sumaya, please share your insights with us.
As far as Africa is concerned, as an emerging market, I think, the perspective that is there and that may be perhaps slightly different from the emerging market that Hebron spoke about is that the deficits that we see, the gaps that are there in the market present.
I think we lost Sumaya there. Everybody just bear with us. We'll get Sumaya back. Following on from what our VIP guest was saying, a question from Michelle. Michelle, you've worked across the globe, both in the emerging markets and in the developed markets. This next question goes to you. What are some of the biggest issues that you believe emerging market startups are faced with? Examples are the risks, safety, IP protection, environment, corporate structures. You've lived this journey. In your opinion, what are the biggest challenges we face as emerging markets entrepreneurs?
Well, thank you, Alysia. I think for me, I'll focus really on the reality that I've seen on the African continent, particularly in Southern Africa, in comparison also to Central Africa, for instance. I would say they are probably a lot, but two that I like to focus on are obviously the challenge around the depth of the market, access to capital. I think it has been a critical point. Let's say, for instance, here in South Africa, I've seen that there is a huge talent pool. People have ideas and so on, but it's actually difficult to find real venture capital or even angel or seed to get those ideas off the ground, because simply simply there's a noise in the background. Simply because a lot of the venture capitals are still thinking like banks, and not having the approach that we can see in other places like in Europe and in America. So that's remain, I think, a huge challenge, and I'm glad that this kind of initiative that you are spearheading is going to be an answer to that. And the second thing that I think is also a challenge is that yes, there's a lot of ideas and so on, but the continent is facing real issues that needs to be addressed, and I think that some of the startups that I've seen are coming up with ideas, but there is a gap around the basic needs that are here in the continent, such as, for instance, how do we break boundaries? How do we break the distance between, it's not such a big distance between, let's say, Southern African countries and Western African countries. You'll see that there is a lot of synergies that we can actually draw from those two regions, but for some reasons, I don't know if it's infrastructure, if it's cultural, those synergies are not materializing because of the barriers, the frontiers, or just the barriers in the mind of the Africans in those two regions. So I think for me that's really the challenges that I see.
Thank you, Michelle. Some fascinating insights being shared today. Sumaya is back with us, everyone. I hope we can hear her okay. Sumaya, please go for it.
The challenges that we may see as far as Africa is concerned, the gaps that are there, the deficits that are there, in my view, present tremendous opportunities for investors wanting to come in. So, for instance, if we are talking about inadequate infrastructure, whether it is in terms of roads or other transport infrastructure or ports, that is a tremendous opportunity for investors, particularly those coming from markets that maybe have already plateaued as far as that is concerned, whether we're looking at refining capacity or storage capacity. So the gaps that are there within Africa as far as investing in it as an emerging market needs investors that have the patience. It needs investors that will take an approach that it's not, that you will come in immediately and turn things around, but that you need to help bring part of the solution. You need to help create connections. You need to be a connector. You need to help some of the places, perhaps looking at some of the policies that may be missing. And I think one of the things that I want to highlight is the uptake that Africa has had for technology. If we look at Kenya, for instance, and what M-Pesa mobile money transfer has done, and how the people have really taken up that technology and what else they've been able to do with it. If we look at how young our populations across Africa are and how much they want, aspirational things, they are buying power, they want to be out there spending money. So the opportunity is really huge, both from the youth of our population, more than 60% is below the age of 25. The digital transformation in terms of our people wanting to take up technology, and also the increase in disposable income presents tremendous opportunities for investors who will have the patience to invest in Africa.
Sumaya, a brilliant summing up of both the opportunities and challenges facing us as entrepreneurs in Africa. And on that topic, there's quite a few questions I'm going to come back to you on. We love learning from the best. And okay, Bron, you had some insights you wanted to share. Please go ahead.
Alysia, to be very precise, 3 challenges I see what startups face today is the first one being startups being not consistent. So basically, the startups have to be sustained for a long period before they see in revenue. So startups which they're not funded well, they fail in a couple of months. So the first one, I would say startup have to be sustained at least for 6 months, well funded. Second, I would say to start their revenue flow, they need to get into a large enterprise accounts. So they need to have a well-connected ecosystem where they need to invest on sales and marketing team to make sure that they break into these large accounts so that they have the revenue flow within the couple of months. The final thing I would say where startups fail and challenges happen is meeting the deadlines and the quality which they have to give to the customer. Since they are very new to the industry, they actually fail sometimes to meet the deadline. If these three can be met, startups can be very successful.
Thank you, Hebron. And I was funny enough having this conversation with Amina this morning. Amina, I know you got some insights you want to share with us. Please go ahead.
Hello, you can hear me?
We can hear you, Amina. Please go for it.
Oh yes, yeah. When we talk Africa, I would like to touch on Africa. Yes, we do have challenges, but we are overcoming these challenges. First, let me mention a few challenges that we have. The funding part of it, we struggle so much bearing funds for our startups. But again, we have initiatives in place where we do all sorts of things to raise funds, and we managed to somehow start our companies. However, we also have where, especially here in South Africa, if I may speak about South Africa, we have rules and regulations, rather policies that are not conducive, they are not enhancing investments, where investors are struggling to come into South Africa. It's a long process, it takes time, and some of them at the end of the day, they just give up. So if the government can simplify those policies so that we can have free flow, people coming in to invest, and then leadership. We have many people who are skilled here who can lead organizations and in other places, but we have the wrong people in the wrong places, which does not give us results. So you find that we are struggling with leadership, and let's face it, we have corruption in Africa, not just South Africa. That is taking us behind. But having said that, I will say we are working on that. We are cleaning house, and moving forward, I think Africa is the place to be because we have the resources. We are not short of that, and where there is resources, then we believe that we can really move on. Yes.
Thank you, Amina. Very, very interesting insights, especially with regards to corruption. Mark, the next question is for you. You live in the land of unicorns and billion-dollar startups, and it's been said that one of the biggest problems in the emerging markets is being able to envision the idea of a billion-dollar startup when you're actually starting out as a founder of a company. Do you believe, as an American entrepreneur, this mind shift can be taught?
Well, Alysia, I think that people have billion-dollar ideas everywhere in the world. I think that it's a matter of sort of finding the resources. Entrepreneurs are creative by definition. So finding the ability to put your idea down, find talented people to join and believe in your idea. That's the definition of entrepreneurialism. And I think that exists everywhere. I think you can find that billion-dollar idea. I think you now, because of the globalization of technology, and I believe, you know, the ability to reach across borders and around the world, as you're doing with this, I think it makes it so much more readily available to be able to build that billion-dollar startup, because frankly, even if it doesn't exist in your country, you can network your way through things like LinkedIn, through platforms that allow you to reach out around the world and find those technology partners, find the marketing and sales partners, establish those large relationships with key suppliers. You know, I deal with entrepreneurs all the time, and I'm always asked to consult with them, and they have great ideas. And a lot of times, you know, it really just comes down to finding the right partner, networking your way to the right partner, whether that be from a financing, technology, management team, building those initial revenues. I think it really can be done anywhere today, frankly. It's just a matter of, like we say in the world of entrepreneurialism, just never give up. And if you have an idea and you believe in it, just make it happen.
Very inspiring words of advice. Thank you, Mark. And Hebron, I know a lot of Indian entrepreneurs are chasing unicorn status. Please go ahead and share your insights.
Alysia, like what Mark was saying, it is very, very important where we connect with people, because right now with platforms like LinkedIn, we are able to reach out to a lot of people. So what happens, even developing countries like India, we reach out to investors across in the US or in Russia, where they want to invest in the technology which they see, which is very, very profitable for them, as well as you get easy return of revenue. Being said that, so here that's the reason if you see every company in the US or in Europe, be it Broadcoms or Intels or Qualcomms of the world, are situated in India, and the market here is tremendous. So basically, if you are able to connect with the right people, like you said, Alysia, we need to collaborate together. It's a success which we build as a team, as we build as a community, as we build as a countries to put together. That's the billion-dollar dream we should go behind.
And we see it every day in our global fireside chat community. It's incredible how entrepreneurs are collaborating and changing the world. It's very, very inspiring. On that note, Sumaya, the next question is for you. You live in Kenya. I know in Silicon Valley, they are very, very excited about what's happening in Kenya. It's known as a hotbed. Very exciting tech startups coming out of Kenya. Do you believe that the emerging markets have the ability to foster Silicon Valley style hotbeds like you guys are doing in Kenya?
I believe they do, Alysia. There are a couple of things, though, that if they were in place would really help to facilitate that. One of those things is intellectual property protection, because what you find is with a lot of startups, particularly in emerging economies, the intellectual property legislation may not be very robust. And what you then find is that somebody comes up with this brilliant idea, but because they don't have the money to take it to market, somebody else then, is able to come in and take the idea from under them and run with it. So robust intellectual property protection for innovators, for people who come up with ideas, to ensure that their idea is protected while they're looking for the funding to go to market, would be one of the things that can be done to facilitate that type of, crossing of the bridge and really moving across as far as Silicon Valley is concerned. The other thing is as well facilitating investment, because the billion-dollar type of startups that we are talking about may have been much more prevalent in the developed economies as opposed to perhaps the emerging economies. But one of the things, again, that could be done to facilitate that is where investors do get incentives, perhaps some form of tax breaks for investing in emerging opportunities, which then encourages them, incentivizes them to put their money there, but also then ensures that the startups do get the type of funding that they need. With those two things, two issues, I believe those are key planks. And then once you put those out there, it's a clean slate for people to just go out and innovate and come up with all sorts of creative ideas.
Sumaya, you've touched on something incredibly important, because this is a conversation I have with Silicon Valley venture capitalists on a regular basis. This IP protection is critical, and we have ministers listening today, ambassadors listening in that. And I think it's a very important message for us all to hear on a regular basis, that if these startups have protection, investors will come to the party as well. So thank you for sharing that. Michelle, we'd love to hear your thoughts in terms of what Sumaya was saying.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yes.
We can hear you. Please go for it.
I think this is what she's saying is critical. Those 2 points are essential. Another point would be, and this is more something that we need to aim at. I don't know how we can do it, but one of the thing is that the way investors work sometimes require a lot of formalities. Formal information, formal processes. But from my experience, let's say, for instance, in the banking, we realize that there is a lot of things that are happening outside the formal economy. and those things are definitely very profitable. Otherwise, people won't be doing them. So I don't know exactly how we can do that, but it will be interesting to have a solution whereby investors can can bring in the funds in the informal economy. So one example is, let's say, for instance, we see in South Africa here, there's a lot of things that are happening in, for instance, the taxi. When we studied the taxi, we were looking at it with some investors. There's a lot of money that can be done in the taxi industry, but a lot of things are still very informal, and there is also unfortunately a bit of criminal activities that are happening there. But if we find a way to structure it, it can open opportunity for investment and also have an impact, a social impact on the whole community.
Thank you, Michelle. Some fantastic insights. And if you haven't been to South Africa and experienced the taxis, it's definitely worth traveling there just to experience the taxis. So thank you for telling everyone about them, Michelle. Hebron, I know you got some insights to share with our community on this topic. Please go for it.
Alysia, with regard to intellectual property, IP, the way I see it is, in emerging markets, the companies are really not willing to share because, like you had mentioned in the group, I mean, they're a little skeptical whether this IP would be leaked out. The way emerging markets right now, it is developing, but I think still the parent company doesn't want to, they work on that IP and they don't share that, but they would share the peripheral activities for emerging markets to start developing and doing the validation and testing part of it. So I still feel emerging markets have to scale up in terms of IP protection so that companies from US or developed nations start sharing those IPs and feel secured so that they can have more development from emerging nations.
Thank you, Hebron. Absolutely fascinating insights being shared today. This next question goes to Samaya, and you've had a very broad set of experiences, a very high level of business. In your opinion, are there certain kinds of businesses that you feel would do better coming from the emerging markets rather than from the US?
The emerging markets, by their nature, have a lot of things that may not already be there that developed markets like the US already have. So if you look, for instance, at oil prices or the effects of what was happening within, you will have noticed that those that already were very strong in the extractive sector, for instance, obviously took a bigger hit. But you have a lot of companies within Africa, a lot of countries within Africa that don't have extractive sector, but whose GDP has been doing much, much, much better than very, very resource-rich countries. So within there is a big opportunity to focus on diversification. The fact that we don't already have in a lot of the countries a concentration of the economy on certain areas versus others presents tremendous opportunity actually for us to go out and mix it all up as far as diversification is concerned to avoid commodity-related challenges. The other thing that we have a lot in Africa is really the demographic dividend. If we are looking at 1.2 billion people, and we are saying more than 40% below the age of perhaps 15, we are looking at the youth, the 15 to 24 years old at 20%. And then we look at developed economies having an aging population. What that presents is a twofold opportunity where, number one, the potential workers that are about to hit the job market, there's a huge, a percentage of the population that is about to hit the job market. And at the same time, these are consumers, not only current consumers, but also sustainability of consumption in terms of the young ones then as they grow up continuing to evolve as perhaps consumers with even a higher purchasing spend. So that in itself presents an opportunity that may not be there in a much more developed market where the demographic makeup may be older than what we have here in Africa.
Thank you, Samaya. Actually, I'm coming back to you with a follow-up question shortly. Mark, I know you got some insights you'd like to share in terms of what Samaya was saying. Please go for it.
Yeah, I thought, Samaya, your point was very interesting. You know, here in the land of unicorns and rainbows in the United States, we really do have an aging population. And you can witness that with what's going on right now with the government's fight over Medicaid dollars or our national health system and inability to be able to make changes to it because so many people and so many more people are depending on the government to provide health care. What's the opportunity there when you talk about emerging markets is, as a result of the aging population, we're moving to pretty much almost, I was talking with somebody yesterday, we're moving to almost a completely service-based economy. We don't really produce products here anymore. I mean, it's very hard to manufacture. It's very expensive to manufacture products. It's expensive to get intellectual property rights and secure those. It's expensive to form corporations. It's expensive to operate with all the benefits that you need to provide to employees here. So it's much less expensive in the emerging countries to launch corporations or to outsource to companies. And obviously you have the young, talented pool in all these other countries. But I mean, from a perspective, I was talking with an entrepreneur yesterday evening. She's launching a toy company. All of her stuff is being sourced on Alibaba from China, and she's selling it all on Amazon. So the reality is that that's the future of business in the United States. We are truly moving to a service-based economy where she couldn't even get products manufactured here, even though she has the same idea in the United States. She can't get it manufactured here cost effectively. So I mean, that's really where the emerging markets come in, from both land use, from growing products, from farming, from employees and outsourcing cost effectively. That's really where the rubber meets the road in the emerging markets that we just don't have the opportunity to do here in the land of unicorn and rainbows. So I think that's really where the opportunity lies with the emerging markets that you just don't have here, or it's just too expensive to have here.
Thank you, Mark. And we haven't even touched on rise of the robots. We're definitely going to come back to in terms of how that fits into everything. Hebron, we would love to hear your insights in terms of this.
Right. Just to add a few points to what Mark was saying, is that in India, especially, the amount of technology outburst is so much. Like what Mark was saying, US has become more of services. So they outsource even the R&D service work to countries like India. And if you see right now, in India is the one or two countries which have a capacity to design a 7-nanometer chip design, which the world is struggling right now to bring it. And we are already developed. We are implementing to a lot of tier semiconductor companies around the world where we are ahead of the market and the technology. So when you look into that, emerging markets give that edge to the developed nations. And even right now, if you see, Apple has set up a complete an assembly from China to Bangalore in India, just because the government is encouraging to have more and more huge companies come into India and start investing in, so that we can be one day become as an emerged market. I may not be sure if that's what we need to become, looking at how the US scenario is.
Thank you, Hebron. And following up from what you were all saying, this next question goes to Samaya. Samaya, we look forward to hearing your insights on this. One of the challenges we face as far as emerging markets entrepreneurs go and the companies we build is valuations. And what we notice on a regular basis is the fact that whilst the ideas and the value that we actually add to our communities, to our economies and that are on par with Silicon Valley companies, the valuations of our companies never come close to Silicon Valley valuations. We'd love to hear your insights, Samaya, and we'd love to hear your co-panelist insights. Please go ahead, Samaya.
Thank you. I think even when we're doing the comparison of the valuations across the different, economies, it is also important to value the differences, because, it isn't apples for apples in a lot of the instances. And so when we take, a one-size-fits-all valuation model without looking at the other factors around it, then there's a lot of value that is then being left on the table that really should be considered. So if, companies that are in the emerging markets, all the normal valuation models are used, and you'll have 3-4 different type of valuation, models and tools that have been applied. But in addition to that, the other things to be considered is, the domino effect as far as impact is concerned. The socio-economic benefit that can come within a particular area. I'll give you one example. We had a company here in Kenya that decided to set up lighting within the slums and the low-income areas. And what they did was to put up extremely tall masts that would provide lighting in the village centers, and and this lighting was free because it's just what that company, well, it's free to the villagers, but of course the company had its own model of how it was paying for that. Now, if the only valuation that one looks at is what was the cost of perhaps installing that and the returns that that company is getting, then that the number that comes out is very skewed, because what else happened when that light came in is that the businesses within those villages, which before then were closing at maybe sunset because the light was too dark, would now go on all the way quite late into the night because the light was there. So that's a whole other little, a microcosm of the economy that was booming just because the electricity was there for longer hours. At the same time, from an educational point of view, the little children would now huddle under that, street lamp and do their education there. So in terms of educational outcomes, where they were not able to do that before when they didn't have that quality of light, and now they could do, what did that do to that community from an educational outcomes point of view, and how many of those children would then transition to the next level of higher education? The other thing as well that we saw coming out of there was the increase in security. Because the lighting was there, crime rates went down, and that of course leads to opportunities for people to come up with other ideas to invest in their own personal properties, because they felt that they were much more secure with the effect that had been brought about by the lighting. So I think when we are doing the evaluations in emerging economies, beyond the, the hard numbers of the business itself, it is important to look at this other, a knock-on benefits and the domino effect of bringing some of these investments on the lives of the communities.
Thank you, Sumaya. Michelle, I know you've got some insights you want to add to what Sumaya was saying. Please go for it.
Yeah, I really like what she said. It's really the way I think we should look at things in on the continent, or at least on some of the section in the continent or countries in the continent where the economy are still developing and the informal sector is still playing a major role. Because obviously when we do evaluation from a formal sector point of view, we can see that maybe the fiduciary return or the financial return are not as great as what you see in the US or developed markets. But when we look at the social impact and all the outside the formal economy aspect, we see that actually the impact can be huge. I can give you just a simple example is in the unemployment. Unemployment has been quite a big debate in some of the countries in Africa, and particularly here, let's say in South Africa. And there is this startup that has come up with a brilliant idea, which is basically to team up with there is a retailer that does a lot of I'd say plumbing and household providing household material for building and so on. And so that startup has teamed up with that retailer because what happened is that you would see a lot of people when you go and shop, you'll see a lot of people outside the retailer with boards saying, if you want to hire a painter, if you want to hire a plumber. So they created an app that works like an Uber, basically, that identify those people that are around those retail shops, and now you can, from the comfort of your house, you can actually call them the way you would call a Uber. They obviously have done already all the safety check and so on, and this solve employment. But you look at the valuation of such an app, it won't be a big valuation, but it's solving a big issue in the country. So
thank you, Michel.
Look at it like
fantastic insights being shared today. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. We have so many questions for our VIPs. Hebron, I know you wanted to add something there. Please just go for it quickly. Let us hear your thoughts.
Right. So, Michelle, evaluation when it comes to India has been very high. If you see the last 1 year, we have seen at least 10 to 20 companies being brought out. The startups have been bought by global companies. Recently, just a couple of weeks back, a company called Hully, which was developing on artificial intelligence and machine learning, was acquired by Google. So right now, India, the startups are evaluated very high. If they got the potential, there's going to be a huge money where startups make by just starting up the company and selling it across.
Thank you, Hebron. And now we've got a question for Mark, goes to our whole panel. Mark, as an American, would you invest in an emerging market startup without actually visiting the country in which it resides?
I personally think that it's really helpful to always meet the management team in person, whether they come to the United States or whether you go to see their facilities or operation. I think it's really helpful to actually meet with the management team, whether whichever location, just so you have a real good sense of the people that you're investing in. With technology, obviously, it becomes where you can Skype like this and do, video calls and see at least the management team. But, depending on what the operation is, you might need to physically go there, or you may be able to do an online presentation if it's more technology based. It just depends on what the base of the business is. I think if it's something that's land or manufacturing based versus technology based, where you can maybe do it without actually having to be there. Also depends on how much money is being invested, what the experience of the management team is in the past. I think I'd look at a bunch of different things before I'd make an investment in that. And their successful exits and strategies that they've done prior, former companies. Strength of the management team has a lot to do with whether I'd really need to go there. But that being said, I don't mind international travel. And if anyone would like to sponsor it, I'm more than happy to go visit. So yes, I think that would be my answer.
Your co-panelists are from some very cool countries, so I think you'll definitely have a good time if you decide to visit Mark. Hebron, I know that you've got some insights you wanted to share in terms of what Mark was saying. Please go for it.
Right. Just to add to Mark, I think one thing I would add, even from an emerging market, is you need to be little careful, because a proper due diligence is required from an investor to give the funding, irrespective of the amount. People right now with fundings coming in, people take quite advantage, try to set up a company, just show few people, get the money, and then you get disappear into an emerging market. You can't even find this guy again. So I think a proper due diligence is compulsory for every investor for an emerging market to come to see it in person, get it run, spend some time, invest and help them grow. I think that's the key there.
Very, very, very good insights and advice there. Thank you, Hebron. Sumaya, let's hear your thoughts in terms of this.
Yes, I agree with what has been said before. The one thing that I want to add is that sometimes you find the people giving you advice about investing in this emerging market have never set foot there. So you have, experts, Afro experts, for instance, who've never been to Africa, and they want to give advice on where to invest and what the issues are. And so I find that there is a need to, calibrate that in terms of getting actual expertise on the ground, people who have been on the ground or are on the ground and can give you the local flavor and, the reality of actually what is happening, rather than perhaps an approach that may be theoretical, in as much as the theory may be very good, but the cultural nuances may not come through in the theory, and this can have, very significant impact on an investment. So it is important to get the local understanding as well.
Fantastic insights, and on behalf of our whole community, I think one of the things that a lot of people mistake is that we have many countries in Africa rather than just one country, and each country is very different. So thank you for touching on that, Sumaya. Amina, I know you got some insights you wanted to share here. Please go for it.
Yes, Alysia, I've been waiting. I believe wherever you do business, whether it's the US or Africa, you first have to do your research. It's important to know where you're going, what is happening there, how big is the market, diversity of the market, the product itself. In some instances, a product might be needed there, but the timing might not be, it might not be the right time, and you'll get it wrong. In this regard, I'm speaking from experience in the sense that sometimes back, we actually try to get into the US. And our product, which is the SAP system at the time, was doing very well, but the timing wasn't right. That was when they had the recession. It was about to start, and we didn't do our homework. So just landing in a place without doing your research, without getting the basics, it's a big risk. And just to look at some other topics that my colleagues have touched on, evaluation, collaboration, I believe all that is important, but we start from research to know where we are going, what to expect, and also have a strategy in place. We are going in the US or Africa, but what's the strategy? What's the plan, other than just landing there? And team is also, having the right team is important. Are they skilled for this particular job? Because we don't want to have the wrong people and hand them tasks which they cannot accomplish, and we will fall on our face. So at the end of the day, I'll look at research, timing, collaboration, the right team, and all that. I'll put it in consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Amina. Now, I know everybody's having a fantastic time and learning some fantastic insights from our global VIPs. We're going to run through my favorite question that we ask our VIP guests every session. And we're going to start with Sumaya. We're going to ask each of our VIPs to quickly answer this question, please. So, Sumaya, what industries are ripe for disruption in 2017, and what excites you in Kenya?
What excites me in Kenya, looking at looking at the policies that have been put in place, looking at the opportunities, looking at what is happening in our markets, there is tremendous scope for the industry that I have embarked on, which is e-learning. There is so much happening within the region in terms of new opportunities that have been opened up, but there is a tremendous gap in terms of the readiness of the people to take up those opportunities, and one of those gaps is a knowledge gap. And I see, the digital platform, as far as e-learning is concerned, being an extremely exciting area. The other exciting area, I would say, is agriculture. We still have huge tracts of very fertile, very arable land, and there are, people will need to eat every day from everywhere around the world. I see an opportunity for Africa to really be the breadbasket for the world. And finally, I see tremendous opportunities as far as the extractive sector is concerned. There are a lot of resources that have been discovered within Africa, and we need to add value to those resources within Africa, and I see that opportunity.
Thank you, Sumaya. I know we're running out of time, guys. Hebron, please tell us what excites you and what industries are ripe for disruption.
Right. I think what's hot right now in emerging markets like India is the entire embedded software and chip design. If people are looking for invest in something like wireless, LG, 5G, WiMAX, storage, automotive electronics, defense solution, anything which has a chip, and you want the high-tech industry to work, India is the place to invest in.
Thank you, Hebron. Mark, hit it.
Sorry, 1 second. I thought I was muted there, I'm not. I would say for the United States, we're continuing to evolve on the service-based disruption. So using technology that's many times developed in India to basically disrupt a lot of the service-based economy with, for instance, Amazon's purchase of Whole Foods, now moving towards service of being able to deliver home-based meals that are ready for prep, basically making everything. The disruptive technology seems to be focused on using technology to enhance services to the general consumer, to make life easier in the United States, especially with the aging population. So I think that's where the disruption lies. We're looking at, my company specifically looking
Unfortunately,
at
we're running out of time.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
No
We're just going to run
Thank
through
you.
it. I'm so sorry. Michelle, please go for it.
Well, I would say, obviously, financial sector, I'm a bit biased by that because that's my favorite sector. But really, financial sector, energy, infrastructure, agriculture, health, and insurance. What I think will be very much key is the deployment of the blockchain technology that will have a huge impact on the financial sectors and the service sectors around that. So I'm very much excited to see more people accessing from informal to formal sector. Or at least a kind of a formal sector through the blockchain.
Thank you, Michelle. Sorry. We're running out of time. Amina, please go for it. What excites you? What industries are ripe for disruption?
Yes, I agree with Somaya. We have to eat. Agriculture comes first, but with agriculture, we have to also go technology. And when you think technology, digital, we have to embrace digital media, and data is the new oil. We can't just sit back and do things the old way. We have.
Thank you, Amina. Okay, guys, now we're going to ask our VIPs to quickly go ahead and prepare their tweet pieces of advice. While they're doing that, thank you to everyone for a truly amazing session. I know there are tons of questions you still want to ask. I will invite all our VIPs back. We all had a blast, and I know you keep learning, and you feel free to reach out to them. We have over 220 WhatsApp groups running, so I'm sure you want to connect with them. They'd love to hear from you. On that note, we have some awesome sessions coming up. We have the 5 most important truths learned as an early stage investor this coming Sunday. You don't want to miss that one. Then next Wednesday, should investors have entrepreneurship experience first? An investor debate. You definitely don't want to miss that one. And then a very cool topic along the lines of what our VIPs were just talking about: Bitcoin, Ethereum, blockchain tokens, ICOs, the future of global money flow. Should we really care? Now, to keep you up, we want to hear from you. Keep us up to date. You can email us, inspireme@onlinefiresidechat.com. We love hearing from you. Our VIPs love hearing from you. You can find me as well as all our VIPs on LinkedIn. And I know they are doing this because they want to empower you. So tell them how well you're doing and tell them how much you've learned. Don't forget, if you enjoyed today's session and feel there are entrepreneurs that can benefit from our fireside chats, remember to keep sharing invitations and telling your community about our amazing community. With your help, we can reach our 100-country goal. Now, the moment you've been waiting for, the tweet piece of advice to go and apply it to your businesses. Starting with Mark. Mark, tweet piece of advice, please. We seem to have lost Mark. Hebron, go for it.
One quote always kept me going. I would say, be somebody no one thought you would be. It's never too late to start on your own. So never give up, start an entrepreneurship.
Beautiful, beautiful words of advice. Mark's back. Mark, hit it. Your tweet piece of advice.
I said, my tweet piece of advice is build a talented team, network to funding, technology, and global opportunity, and don't give up.
Once again, love it. Thank you. Sumaya, please share your tweet piece of advice.
At the end of the day, it's all about the people. Put humanity before profit.
Exquisite words of advice from a true business leader. Michelle, please give us your tweet piece of advice.
I think focus on solving a real problem through technology.
Good words of advice there. Amina, tweet piece of advice.
We are blessed with new opportunities each day to build afresh wherever our memories and imagination take us.
On that note, thank you, Amina. My quick piece of advice, be grateful for all you have. We are extraordinarily lucky to be entrepreneurs, to have friends and family and a community and these extraordinary business leaders supporting us. Never forget that it is a privilege. Thank you again to everyone. Have a truly, truly, truly amazing week. Remember to keep hustling and never, ever, ever give up. You will get it right, we promise, and we are there to support you on the journey. On the count of 3, I'm going to ask our VIPs to shout bye. So until next week, everybody, 1, 2, 3. Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.